Dive in the deep end, it's time to defend your movie.
Hello, friends, and welcome to today's episode of Defending Your Movie. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. When I started this podcast, this was a movie I 1,000% knew I wanted to talk about because I guess I should say I had mixed feelings about it originally. Like, I saw this in the theater, and then I was like, hey, you know, it was fine. But then I've watched it a few times since then, and it's one of those movies that each time I watch it, I kind of like it a little more. And now I'm at the point where I love it, and I'm endlessly bummed that there's not going to be a sequel for it. And of course, I'm talking about the 2017, I believe so. Saban's Power Rangers, I believe is the full title, but you know, Power Rangers, the Power Ranger movie. I was a huge Power Ranger fan growing up. Like, it was my everything as a kid. It was waking up, watching it on Fox, I believe is where it was, and just loving every minute of it. And, you know, as I grew out of it, it was still always something I was interested in and kind of would just in the peripheral, keep my eyes on the series as it was going on, and I never really watched it again, but I was introduced to Atop the Fourth Wall has a video series of the history of Power Rangers, and I don't really interact with anything else on that website, but I went through and watched all of the history of Power Rangers stuff, and just kind of learned about all the series and a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff that was going on. And I kind of got sucked back in, and it really kind of made me want to start diving into this movie a little bit. And so naturally, I have a friend, a coworker, Alberto. A lot of people know as Scrump, and also the host of the PWT Cast, who's a massive Power Rangers fan. And so I decided, you know, why don't I reach out to him and see if he wants to do Power Rangers. He appeared twice on my previous podcast, and ironically enough, for one of those episodes was a Power Rangers script that we talked about. So this is kind of like coming full circle. You know, we sit down, we talk about Power Rangers, and this is honestly like a pretty interesting conversation because it does kind of branch off into more talk than just the movie, like a lot of just franchise talk and IP talk with Power Rangers, but also with other things like Marvel and stuff like because, you know, at one point Power Rangers passed through Disney, so there's kind of some connecting tissue there. But it's a really fun conversation, and I think you guys will enjoy this episode, and I hope people give this movie a shot because I do think it is really underrated. And you know, there are some things that kind of sat weird with me the first time I saw it that I came to terms with on other viewings, and I honestly think this is a really great nostalgia trip and a really fun movie. But before we get to that conversation, you know, let's get our stuff out of the way. Be sure to check us out on social media at Defending Movie on Twitter and Instagram. Also, you can check our Patreon, which is patreon.com/defendingmovie. You can also get our merch, some t-shirts, some really cool t-shirt designs, kind of inspired by some movie parody stuff, and also just our logo on a shirt at belowthecollar.com/defendingyourmovie. So be sure to check out all that stuff. You know, we got some fun stuff coming on the Patreon. Don't forget, this podcast is partnered with the Cryptic Closet. In this month of October, get your spooky season gear. Head to thecrypticcloset.com. Browse their horror-themed merchandise, some great parody stuff, t-shirts, buttons, pins. Use code DEFEND to get 21% off your order. Once again, that is code DEFEND at checkout. But without further ado, why don't we get into some talk about Saban's Power Rangers. So, I know I'm a little older than you, so I don't know what your history with Power Rangers was. Did you watch it as a kid on TV?
I remember watching it on TV. It started in 93, so clearly not when it ran. Because
What year were you born?
93.
93? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Christ. I remember watching the premiere of Power Rangers.
I remember watching it. There's a picture of me as the Red Ranger, which is, it's as a kid, one of the few good children's Halloween costume pictures that I have, but I do remember watching it on top of.
I think I also did a Red Ranger Halloween once.
Most people,
Yeah.
it was either green, white, or red. You know, I honestly, as a kid, I never saw like blue, yellow. It was always just, or even black. It was just pink, white, green, or red. No, but I watched it a lot as a kid. Like my older cousins, they were into it as well, and they were girls too. So it was just like, it was one of those like, oh, it's like, to me, it was never like, it's just a boy show.
Yeah.
Because everyone in my family watched it.
Yeah. So was Mighty Morphin the first series you saw, or did you come into whatever was current?
So I have a vivid memory of going to. I think it was to see the Turbo. I watched the original Mighty Morphin Rangers. I would have watched it when it was in syndication and stuff. Zeo, we've had this conversation. I have a vague recollection of like there's things here and there that I remember of it, but gun to my head, I'm like I cannot like tell you an episode.
I remember loving Zeo, and so I've been diving into these Power Ranger reviews that. This website, I follow, he like reviews each season and like long ass videos of it. And I rewatched his Zeo video, and I remember like certain elements. Like I remember when the Gold Ranger was introduced, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And he was like cool looking. But like watching that review, I was like, "Oh, I don't remember any of the plot of that show."
Yeah, I mean, I vaguely remember the Machine Empire. I had the Gold.
See, I had no memory that the Machine Empire was the villain.
I had the Gold Ranger toy. Like I remember, I think it was at the end of the season when like they take over the command center.
Yeah.
Just because I remember like, oh man, this is fucked up. You know, because for the most part, those shows, were your basic comic book. You know, there was the villain shows up in the first act, and by the third act they've won. But I remember this specifically was just like, whoa.
Yeah, like Mighty Morphin ends with the command center being blown up. And then that transitions into Zeo. So, like, that was pretty crazy for, like, a kid's show.
Yeah. So, Zeo, I don't have much of a recollection of. Turbo, again, So
would Turbo have been, like, the one when you were a kid that you, like, possibly would have been introduced to first?
No, for sure Mighty Morphin. Sure Mighty Morphin was the first one. But, like, with Turbo, I remember that one. I remember going to see the movie. So, I have this vague memory. The movie would have came out. Let me look up exactly when the movie would have came out. But I remember there was this theater. It's called the Brickyard Mall now, and the actual mall itself is not there anymore. But I remember that. So 97 it would have came out. So I would have been 4.
Really?
Yeah. So we used to go to that movie theater, and we were either there watching a movie and the Turbo poster was up, or we had just seen the Turbo movie. But I remember seeing that movie as well. And like I was hot take Turbo movie better than Mighty Morphin movie.
So that's crazy to me because I saw Mighty Morphin in theaters. Mm-hmm. Like that was my brother. We went to the movies and my parents wanted to see a movie, but I was like, no, Mighty Morphin. So I was like, all right, your brother can take you to see that and we'll go see this. And I remember my brother being super pissed because he wanted to see the other movie, but he had to babysit me basically.
No, I remember seeing that, and for me, by the time In Space comes around, from then till about. Like, I want to say like Ninja Storm or Dino Thunder.
Yeah,
I pretty much watch those like religious. Like I was.
Oh wow! So you watch a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and again, like In Space is like I've said, it's my favorite. Like up on my wall right now, I have an autograph of Christopher Kamen Lee, and so that one was like the one where, and I've talked about it before. I might possibly even with you, where like that one. The what I love about that series is that when they started the show, they told the cast, "This is it."
Yeah,
Turbo fucking.
The story of In Space is legitimately pretty crazy.
And well, funny enough, in speaking with Christopher Kamen Lee, like he's talked about, he's just like, yeah, for the most part, we just ripped off Star Wars.
Yeah, they just did Star Wars.
Exactly, which is I think why like I like it the most.
It's good though. Like so, my only interaction with In Space is watching these reviews and stuff, but. Him going through and just talking about the entire series, I was like, I might pick this up on iTunes and just watch it because it's only like $20 for 40 episodes.
Well, the thing too, it's like they just because again to them they're like, this is it. They're like, then fuck it, let's go with more dark tones.
All stops.
They bring back like it's full circle, encompasses all 4 seasons up to that point.
Yeah,
and
which
like,
I didn't know that it was like one continuous story, and then hearing how that series ends, I was like, oh shit.
Exactly. Yeah. Which. and like I've talked about it with Dave, where it's like the repercussions of that technically should mean that there's no more seasons, because it's like
it should.
All evil's wiped out, but then every season it's like, oh
yeah. But I mean, from that point on, they were trying to do standalone seasons, but they would still reference older seasons. Like the timeline is really murky.
I don't think you have, but have you read the Shattered Grid comic book?
I'm working my way up there, so I have, I think, all like 8 or 9 volumes of the series, and I'm on volume 3 right now.
Okay, so
they introduced, was it Dracon or Dracon?
Lord Dracon.
Dracon, yeah. So I've seen him in the comics, but they haven't gotten into the story yet.
So my understanding from having read the book, which if anyone's listening and 100% read the book, like
the Power Rangers comics are legit.
Yeah, like I actually just lent because I had bought 2 copies of it, and I lent one to Chris Wong, and he was talking about, he's like, why don't they just take Power Rangers this serious? And that's what it is. It's a serious take on it. You know, they don't treat you like an idiot. But my understanding is that every Power Ranger is in the same timeline, aside from 2. There is one.
RPM, I think, is one, because it's technically like a post-apocalypse or something.
I think that one, and there's another one in which dinosaurs never went extinct.
That I just watched. I think that's Dino Charge. That's like the most recent Dino theme series. That, like, because they retcon history essentially.
Yes, so it is that. There are 2 of them that are just straight up that is they are not within this timeline, but every other one takes place sequentially throughout the same, and they've done that. Like, I stopped watching Power Rangers again with.
Yeah, I mean, they still continue the tradition of once a year they cross over with the previous season's Rangers.
So there was a giant crossover event.
Yeah, the Megaforce, I think, Super Megaforce.
It was one of those things where I'm like,
they fucked it up too.
I'm like, they shouldn't have the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers there, or the Zeo ones there, or the Turbo ones.
According to the story, they wouldn't have powers, and some of them are the same people.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I get it. This is aimed at like kids.
Yeah, but also that series is like one of the worst series, and like, because that was, I think, one of the first ones under Disney when they took it over, and they just kind of didn't give a shit about the show.
It's crazy. Dave and I, again, we for a while, it's on a little bit of a hiatus now, but we had Go Scrump and Stank, which was kind of just us talking Power Rangers, and one of the things that we constantly talked about was the fact that Disney twice had Power Rangers and did not give a fuck, and that Stan Lee was like, we need to buy this property, and they were like, no, we don't care about Power Rangers.
It's insane because it's such a deep fan base. Like, you could do so much with it, and like, I understand the whole concept of Power Rangers was like, we can do this really cheap because we're just recycling footage from other shows, and that's why they're kind of riding around that footage. But it's insane that one of the biggest companies in the world, who has provided some of the biggest connected movies and stuff, just can't get it right with that series.
I mean, could you imagine Disney like now? I mean, because now Saban owns them.
Well, isn't it Hasbro now? Saban got them back from Disney, and then Hasbro.
Yeah.
Now Hasbro has them.
But I know the Saban is, well, because Saban Films put out Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and like they clearly reference like the Power Rangers in that.
Yeah.
Which really, there was like some other movie.
I mean, that's his baby, man. Haim Saban, or however you pronounce his last name. Like, he's still super in on Power Rangers.
I think there's also Power Rangers in that last Spider-Man movie. There's a Spider-Man. It was like they referenced Power Rangers, and then they were like, yeah, like that, or Voltron, which is you know. Oh no, but again, that's like a thing that I've talked about with people who read the comics, where it's like there is, and with this movie in particular, they kind of try to take it there a little bit, but like there is a way to do this and do this seriously. Yeah, and like it sort of reminds me of a few years back. It was maybe like an 8, maybe 10 episodes. Again, maybe not even that, but it was called like Pokemon Red and Blue.
Yeah. We watched it. It was like on Amazon or something, and it's really good.
Exactly. Like, it is just, hey, we're gonna do Pokemon in the style of an anime. Yeah. And like that's always my problem with that Pokemon, with that old Pokemon show, because I remember watching it, but the one thing that I hated about it, and this is why I'm always arguing, where I'm like, I am the Digimon show way better than the Pokemon one, because the Digimon show was 54 episodes, beginning, middle, end. Boom. Pokemon it's still
It's still going. It has over like 1,000 episodes.
And the one thing that I hated was it's like, it's like the whole thing is, all right, he needs to get 8 gym badges and go to the Elite Four. But it was always like, we're going to stop in this town full of Diglets. And we're going to have fun. And then you play the games and you're like, where's the city full of Diglets? And they're like, doesn't exist. Like, what about this island full of Clefairy? Doesn't exist either. And I'm like, well, then what the fuck did I watch this show for?
It's there was no correlation between them.
Exactly. But like with this, and like this in particular, most of the people who have done Power Ranger stuff are still around for the most part. Like, there's actually, and I regret not going to it prior to, the pandemic, because this year they're doing it virtually, but it's called like Morphicon.
Yeah, Power Morphicon.
Power Morphicon, where like
dude, we should go.
I want to. Me and Wong were actually just talking about that.
We can rope Paul into that. We'll all go.
100%.
Dude, 1,000%.
Mark would come as well, but it's cool because like. Again, so I kind of fell down this Power Rangers rabbit hole again because I discovered Christopher Kamen Lee, like he has this Twitch channel, and I was like,
cool.
I was like, I don't really fuck with Twitch. I was like, but let me watch it, and just hearing him talk, and then like discovering a lot of these Rangers are still for the most part like super active. They're super cool with their fan base, like,
and like because the fan base is so respected, like a lot of those people hang around. They love to go to the conventions and stuff.
Exactly. Like I believe I've told you my interaction with Jason David Frank.
Maybe I've had the only interaction I've had was the Red Ranger at C2E2, and he was nice.
So this one was at C2E2, and it was when he was feuding with Punk, and it was me and Frank were working the Punk table, and I remember they stuck us on one side, and he was like all the way up at the front, and he was like, "Oh, this motherfucker." He goes, "Can you do me a favor? If he comes over, I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to his people. Like, he won't leave me alone. Don't worry, I got you." And so in talking with the one C2E2 guy who's kind of just in charge of managing our line, like he's like, oh yeah, his manager kind of manages all the other Rangers. And I remember the Red Ranger was there, the Blue Ranger was there, Aisha the Yellow Ranger, she was there.
I met her too. It was actually kind of funny. Sorry, I don't mean to cut in, but when we were the first convention we did with Punk, we were next to, was it Jason Scott Lee or whatever?
I wasn't there with you guys.
No, but the Red Ranger, the original Red Ranger.
Jason Scott Lee.
And then next to him was the Yellow Ranger. And he had a huge line, and she didn't really. Like, she had a few people. Most people were hitting both tables, but he had this big line, and she's just kind of sitting at her table, and like he would be taking photos with people, and they do the morph, like he'd be sitting there and go, Tyrannosaurus, and she would just be sitting at her table and just go, Saber-tooth tiger. And it was just cracking me up that she was just participating.
She was actually really nice.
No, they were both super nice.
Because I remember she I was like walking around backstage, and she was like, "Hey," she was like, "I see you guys have a big line. Like who are you?" And I told her the same Punk. She was like, "Oh, okay, blah, blah." And we talked for a little bit, and then she asked, she's like, "Do you want a picture?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I'll take a picture." So I knew J.C. Frank was going to be there, and I'm like again at this point, I'm like, he is my childhood hero. I need to get a picture with him. And I remember at one point I catch him backstage, and I remember Ryan was like, "Bring him some shirts." I was like, "All right, cool, fuck it." So I have some shirts. I have it in the little 1 hour tee box. So I see him, and I'm like, "All right, fuck it. I'm going in," and he's on his phone, so I'm just like waiting, off to the side. And he hangs up, and he's kind of just chilling, just scrolling on his phone. I go to him like, "Hey, Jason, I don't mean to interrupt. My name is Alberto. I'm over here working. And I didn't have a line, so I wanted to, come say hello. I wanted to bring you these." He's like, "Oh, I work for a t-shirt company." He's like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "Who are you here with?" And I could have just said anybody.
He wouldn't have known.
I could have said anybody. And like an idiot, I go, CM Punk. And mind you, this was after he had already agreed to take a photo. So we take a photo, and like he does, it's like, it's fine. But and I got the photos in here somewhere, but I'll show you after. But he's kind of just like, does it like, you can clearly tell. And I remember him just like, "Oh my God." And he probably fucking threw the shirts out. And like at one point later on, his agent or whoever comes over, he's like, "Hey," and he's like, "I remember," and I'm just like, "Dude, doesn't want to talk to you." He's like, "Oh," I'm like, "No, does not want to talk to you." But I met what's his face? Oh God, I forget his name. The guy who plays Billy.
Yost, David Yost.
David Yost. Also, super fucking cool guy. But yeah, I mean, it's just that a lot of these people, they're still around. Some of them, still get up in costume and things like that, which is really fun. But I've always been a big proponent of, especially with that Shattered Grid storyline, 1,000%, you can do that and just do it animated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, they should totally do animated Power Rangers stuff. That'd be great.
And granted, like
there's no reason why you can't have the shows for the kids and then also be doing stuff for adults. Like this movie, it's for us. It's not like there's stuff in it for kids, but it feels like a movie for the fans.
Well, yeah, you think about it, like with Marvel, if you can take your kid to see like
like Ant-Man or something.
Ant-Man, and that's really fun. But I don't necessarily know, like my nephew. My nephew loves more movies.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I take him to see fucking Spider-Man, he'll have the time of his life. I'm sure if I show him Winter Soldier, I don't necessarily know how much. Like he'll probably be like, "Oh, this is cool," but like,
yeah, it's cool because Captain America's there, but like, what is this?
Yeah, like the complexities of like a corrupt government. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be his cup of tea. And like you can do that again with this Power Ranger stuff. I know Jason David Frank ran some sort of like Kickstarter because so he's full on like gone.
He wanted to play the live action Drakon or whatever.
Yeah, which for those of you unaware, Lord Drakon is an alternate timeline version of Tommy Oliver who goes full on evil.
Yeah, like if he never was saved by the Power Rangers, basically.
Yeah, exactly, and like he's sort of like the Thanos of that universe. Like, in all honesty, from reading,
don't spoil it too much because I am going to read it.
No, I mean, and as far as like he is, the big bad, kind of just like doing whatever the fuck
they
he
really
wants.
should just do it.
Yeah, because again, like in reading the book, there's just so much where I'm like, what? Like I had to like look to be like, is this being fucking remade or something?
Yeah.
And I think there is someone. I think they are rebooting. They're doing a reboot sequel to this movie.
So no, they were okay. So we will talk about the movie at some point. But so the movie was not financially successful, which I blame to they launched it at the same week as the Lion King remake, I think. So that pretty much ate up the box office. This movie literally crawled past its budget, but obviously with marketing and stuff, they did not make enough money. But they sold an astronomical amount of toys. So like, oh, okay, well, we sold enough toys, so we'll do another one. So they were planning a sequel. Then they got sold to Hasbro, and Hasbro for a minute was like, yeah, we'll still do it. And then it became, oh, we're just going to make a new reboot movie, and we're going to ignore that one. So all the actors have pretty much confirmed, like, yeah, they're doing another one, but not with us, which I am super bummed out about.
So I remember a long time ago, you and we did a review on Shelved about the
Max Landis Power Ranger script.
Yes. Which was...
It was okay.
Yeah, like I kind of like the movie version better because it felt a little bit more tight. Like that Max Landis one, there was like a lot of, especially in as far as like the Zords one, a lot of just like
he was just throwing stuff in, and I mean that dude is what he is now.
Yeah. But like with when we did that, like I remember that comes out, going to see the movie, and actually like. I wasn't a fan of it at first.
Yeah, I was curious. So you saw it opening weekend and stuff, right? Because I think we both did.
Yeah, I went to go see opening weekend, and I remember like I went with like my girlfriend at the time, and she was like Power Ranger adjacent, like knew enough, and was like, yeah, cool, like let's go watch it. And I came from it where I'm sure a lot of people came from it, where hashtag not my Power Rangers.
Yeah,
which. It's not the way you should see that movie.
No,
because watching was kind of just like like Tom. Like,
but I bet you got really perked up when that song came on,
dude. So I compare that to first time I saw Creed, and they never play the Rocky theme, but when they fucking do, when they get to it, I'm just like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, they're doing it. And it was very much the same thing because like.
They literally recreate the shot from the show and throw in the theme, and it's great.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh fuck yeah, because aside from that, and then like I mentioned the cameos from
which I didn't even notice when I saw it the first time.
He actually got kicked out of a theater trying to record his own.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah. But also at some point, when they're in Billy's basement, in the background, there's Finster and like all of those henchmen toys in the background.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
like you.
I just watched this and I'm gonna go rewatch it.
It's one of those like blink and you miss it kind of things. But also it's like, well, there wasn't enough of my Power Rangers, and that was definitely the wrong way to approach it. But post reading Shattered Grid, I was like, I want some more Power Rangers. I was like, you know what? Let me give this film a second watch.
Yeah.
And as its own thing. and I loved it. Like,
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, like to the point where I convinced Dave to give it a rewatch. The same thing, he didn't really like
saw
it upon
and
the
just
second time.
Yeah,
and we rewatched it, and both of us kind of just came to that conclusion.
Dude,
like, yeah, it is good.
similar. Like, I liked it when I saw it. I was like, that was fun. Like, it wasn't perfect, but I really enjoyed it, especially because that last 30 minutes is just so much fun. But yeah, so like so it came out on Blu-ray and I bought it because I just buy everything anyway, and we watched it here like at work, and I was like, oh yeah, this movie is pretty fun. And then I think we ended up watching it twice within a week or something because some people weren't here. And when we used to be able to watch movies at work, we'd always have a thing where we'd throw in a movie and then a new person would get hired and they didn't know we'd already watched that, so we'd end up rewatching movies all the time. So I came to be like, you know what, I think I really like that movie. And so I actually watched this movie twice before the podcast because we were supposed to do this like a couple weeks ago or whatever, and then work just got busier than we expected. So I watched it then, and I was like, man, I think I love this movie. And then I watched it again today with the commentary track on this time, just to like mix it up a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, like this solidifies. I love that it's like, it's not just your standard blockbuster. It is kind of a character-driven movie, and I love every character in the movie.
Yeah, it was one of those like second time rewatching it and not like trying to compare it. You do see a lot of that, like Billy again. I mean, even first time around, Billy was one of my favorite.
Yeah,
characters.
he's really stands out.
Yeah, but like you almost feel like I felt more sympathy for Zordon this time around, because it's like you gotta figure this guy, like, you know, canonically dinosaurs go extinct because Rita Repulsa is about to, you know, she's about to win.
Yeah,
she is about to win and take those Zeo crystals, and the only way is there needs to be a, you know, a cataclysm, an Avengers level threat. Let's label it that. And he has Alpha, you know, rain fire basically, and wipe everything out. And he's stuck in this computer, and again in his mind he's like, I was this close to defeating her, so I know how to defeat her, and just please you idiots, just more so I can get out of here, you know. But then
I love how Zordon is kind of a jerk for a little bit. Like, there's a lot of good character development from everybody in this movie. Yeah, and you see like the heroic side of him, you know, like, you know why he's the leader. Yeah, you see it when, you know, eventually he gives the one chance he had to like regain his physical body, like up for you know, for Billy, and it's just like, there you go. That's a Zordon that, like, again, canonically we know as to be like this, you know, he's a sage. He's supposed to protect everyone and watch everything over. Even he being the mentor still goes through development, where in the beginning of the movie he thinks they're a joke and thinks they're a waste, and he's like, he literally says, you need me to win this. And, you know, in the end, even he has to realize that he needs them as much as they need him. Well, like, think about the like the TV Zordon. Yeah. No, did nothing. No, you know, he's just there. He was just, Rangers, I'm in a tube. And then there was like the weird in the Mighty Morphin one when it's like, oh no, he's actually a man in there, and they're just like, huh? Like, yeah, and like in the movie or whatever. He's just a shriveled raisin? Yeah. That's fucking weird. So I recently rewatched the 5 Green Ranger episodes of Mighty Morphin, because like I bought the first season like a long time ago on iTunes. And like, oh, like I forget they mentioned that he is actually like a trans-dimensional being, and he's actually projecting through dimensions and stuff. He's not actually just a guy in a tube. Yeah, and that's why I remember like being upset when, again, you rewatching the Mighty Morphin, because this was years back now, but I rewatched it because my buddies, they did like a review of it. Yeah. And I was just, like, we all kind of just came to the conclusion, is like, listen, we love this series, we love this, and like this movie, it like nostalgically holds up a lot better than it actually does, and it's fine, you know. I have an unopened DVD of it that I've been waiting to crack open, because I have not seen it in probably 10 to 15 years. Yeah, I mean, that one's one, but like, and that's why I always mention, like, to me, if I had to rank these Power Ranger movies that are out so far, I would rank this one, Turbo, and then Mighty Morphin. I need to see the Turbo. I've never interacted with Turbo. It's free on YouTube, I believe. Is it? Okay, I might look that up then. Yeah, because none of this stuff is like streaming anywhere. Turbo might also be on HBO Max. Okay, I'll check, because I have access to HBO Max. Yeah, but no, like, you know, that one to me felt more like, because there's something about Do you think part of it is because it was like your first one?
No, I think it kind of, again, like in looking back at it, it's like the one thing I don't like, because the Mighty Morphin Ranger movie, not canon.
No, it's not.
It's not canon, and like they make a mistake, which I think they made with this movie, in which like they differed too much away from what works. You know, if something's broke, don't fix it. And like in the Mighty Morphin movie, they have all like these weird new like muscly costumes.
I kind of like those costumes. I mean, it works for a movie, but yeah, like I don't know. I kind of like those costumes.
And like that, I don't know. This is one of those things to me where it's like, if you want to introduce new costumes, there's a way to do. You know,
yeah.
It's just, and the CG.
The CG is awful.
I forgot.
Even at the time, I was like, "This is not."
I believe it came out the same year Twister came out.
I want to say it was like 95.
95, yeah, and I think Twister also came out in 95.
Yeah,
and you compare and contrast the two, and it's like,
well, shit. You want to compare and contrast two movies with special effects that came out in the same year? Watch Star Wars Episode 1 and Lost in Space. Some of the worst special effects you've ever seen in Lost in Space, but Episode 1 was like groundbreaking.
Yeah, but they also had Lucas.
Yeah, it's hard to compare them, but it's hilarious to know those came out at the same time.
See, but like, and I think originally with this movie as well, like I get what they're trying to do with the whole new alien costumes.
Yeah, how do you feel about the costumes in this movie? At first, I was kind of iffy on them, but I kind of like them now as like a separate thing.
Still not a fan of them.
Yeah.
Like there was this Power Ranger game. I might still have it.
Is it the phone game? Because I've actually been playing it.
Yeah.
I can pull this up right now.
And
I fell back. This one?
Oh. Yes.
Legacy Wars.
Legacy
Wars.
Wars.
It's like a fighting game.
I was playing that one for a while, and like even seeing the Ranger costumes there, like I'm just like. Oh,
and I could actually, since I have it pulled up, I can even show you that one of my main teams, I use the pink one.
And see,
because she's just fucking unstoppable in this game.
And that game as well was also one of those things. So originally, the thing that sparks all of this is sitting over here on my shelf, which is
the pink. I've been staring at that this whole time.
The pink Ranger Slayer costume, which is just like it's.
What is that from? Because that character's in the game. So, is that actually in the comics?
She's from the Shattered Book comics.
Okay,
yeah.
She's like the evil Pink Ranger, right? Okay,
yeah. So
I saw hints of her.
Yeah, so she is basically Tommy's bounty hunter.
Okay.
Yeah, she just goes around like different universes, like eliminating Rangers and stuff. And I remember when Dave explained it to me, I was like, "That's fucked up," and I need to immediately read this book.
Yeah. So you've solidified, because I just finished Ultimate X-Men. That's like the comic I've been getting through. And next, I was debating between continuing Power Rangers or reading this other thing. I think I'm just gonna go home and start reading Power Rangers.
Well, funny enough, like after Shattered Grid finishes. If you look over there right next to Watchmen, there's that pink one. It's more so her story. That one, when I bought it, was autographed by Jason David Frank, so it was like $20 more. But I was like, whatever. You guys have it here. I don't want to wait for like
Amazon.
But like so with the Turbo movie, you know, they keep the costumes originally because they start out, you know, as Zeo and then get their turbo powers, but the costumes are kind of normal. It feels a little bit more updated. Like, you know, and. Again, like some people have their preferences. That one's just personally, you know, the one I would prefer. But with this one, I mean, again, like I get it. Everything they kind of try to change around. Like I don't like that they changed Alpha because I
really like Alpha in the movie though. Yeah, I mean, I think David Hayter's a great fucking choice for the voice.
I think just aesthetically, I was like. Really? I was like, was that the best like choice you could have gone with?
I'll say a lot of this movie grew on me. I definitely didn't love it at first. I didn't love the costumes at first. I didn't love Alpha at first. I always kind of like Zordon, like the way they have him on the wall and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I like that the command center is like a spaceship. But Alpha and the suits both grew on me over time. Like I think I have seen this movie 5 times now as of today. And I don't know, like I've come to really love this movie. Like the design of everything is really great. Like the direction, like it has a really distinct look, and I like how intimate it is. Like a lot of the camera work, for example, there are multiple car chases in the movie, but the camera stays in the car the whole time. You're always with the kids. There's a lot of like close shots with them. Like it always just feels like we are with these kids every step of the way, and I kind of love that about it.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. I also think just a part of it is that like it takes itself serious, but not too serious. You know, like we both love The Dark Knight, but post Dark Knight, a lot of movies try to.
It's just everybody's trying to do that.
Everyone tries to be too dark when they necessarily shouldn't, and I think there is like a perfect balance of that in this movie because I mean, like, you know, spoiler alert, Billy straight up gets murdered.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like they don't ever play that for like comedic effect or anything.
No.
Like it's just like
there's only one real sequence of the movie that I feel like brushes up against the line of, oh, this is for kids too, and it's the training montage, which that was like the first time I saw the movie, it was kind of like, hey man, pick a tone, you know. But now that I've seen it a few more times, I'm like, it's closer than I think it is. But like when they're like throwing the paper back and forth like a ninja star in detention, and when they're like fighting with their forks at the table and stuff, it's a little silly.
Yeah, but I think it's like you have to have that. You have to have these, like,
because they are still kids after all.
Yeah, on top of like you know, relative strangers until about like a week or two ago or whenever it is, and there's no real like time frame. Like
they tell you, I think it's like, oh, it's 2 weeks that we think Rito will be here.
Exactly. So imagine you meet someone, and then in those 2 weeks form a bond to where you will give your life with them.
That is like my favorite element of the movie. Like I said, I love that it's a character movie, and one of my favorite scenes is when they're just sitting around the campfire talking. And like the last few times I watched it, I fucking almost teared up when Zach is speaking, and he's just like, you know, I love my mom, she's awesome, but he's like, but she's sick, you know. Like, it's serious. Like they really ground it in like stories you can relate to.
Well, especially with those side characters, because for the most part, any Power Rangers series, Red, Pink, and the Special Ranger are the only ones that get any really storylines.
Yeah.
You know, occasionally, you know, the Yellow Ranger will get a B plot. Like they
but
will
it's
get
very
their
rare.
own episode. Yeah, very rare. But with this, it's like, you know, the Yellow, Black, and Blue Rangers, they get more to do. They get an actual story to them, so that you can actually like relate to them, and like
everybody has an arc, which is pretty rare for Power Rangers.
Exactly. I will say the thing that I hated the most about this movie, that again, even the costumes, I'm like, sure, that's fine. Yeah. Like Alpha, sure, it's fine. The one thing I won't forgive him for, and it is the hill I will die on, Goldar. Like, you know, like
I'm okay with it.
I have my Goldar.
I can see his foot sticking out.
Over there, and it's like, you could have worked on that design.
Yeah, the design itself is not great. Like, I like the idea that it's her Zord and not like just some monster. And so I did listen to the commentary track today, and they do talk about it a little bit, and they're like, since Power Rangers, you've seen monsters like Goldar over and over, so they wanted to do something different. So like, okay, I understand it. The design is not good.
No, like, and even if that's my thing, even if they wanted to go with Goldar's Zord, sure. What they went with just looked so dumb. Like, you know, where I'm just like, really? Like, was it like, did it never get past the first draft? Like,
I would die on that hill with you. They could have done Goldar a lot better.
100%, yeah. And because again, with me, like, Goldar was always one of those like characters that I was just like, oh yeah, like, just this silly monster that would just show up, and I'm like, I like it because he's terrifying. You know what I mean?
I like how the comics treats him like pretty seriously.
Exactly, yeah. So there is a time and place to, like, if you want to change things, sure. I definitely felt like this is your first introduction. Like, I don't know, maybe not too veered too far off to the left, but I mean, you know,
his design feels really uninspired. He's just like gold goo, and like it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, and even with like Rita, with her whole like,
I
want gold.
I will admit that she is acting in a different movie. But, like, on my repeated viewings, I do feel like, well, she's like an alien, so she is a little different than, you know, how normal people are. So, like, it's kind of, like, I kind of forgive it that she is a little outlandish, and every time I watch it, it feels a little less hard to accept that she is, like, kind of, like, at 11 the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But, I do like the changing of the mythology that she was the green, like, she was the Sixth Ranger. Yes. I think that is a fun addition.
No, that's definitely a fun thing as well, because like you know, she has, from what I remember in the original Rangers, like, she has access to that, like, that Green Ranger coin.
Yeah, which is never really explained. She just has it.
No, yeah, it's just, she has it. But for this to be like, oh yeah, no, she was, you know, she's the defective Green Ranger.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, okay, that's a little fun twist.
If they were going to do that sequel, because they do the tag at the end of Tommy Oliver or whatever, like, you could imagine, like, okay, well, she failed, so maybe if she was going to be in the sequel, that, you know, she has her coin and she's like, we'll try to give it to one of them, you know, and see if he can take him down. Or if maybe she's not in it and Tommy just finds her coin and then it's corrupted because of her, you know. And, you know, hopefully Zed could have been in the sequel. That's what I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah, I see. Actually, I love, again, this is another thing where it's like Lord Zed to me, perfect design.
Yeah.
You don't have
you don't need to change that at all.
You don't need to change a goddamn thing, but they would have. They 100% would have.
I bet they would have kept it similar, because even for, you know, the 95 movie, they kept him the way he was. And I can't remember if this is correct. Was Zed an American creation? Like he I don't think he was part of the Sentai footage.
He might have.
I think he was entirely an American thing.
Okay,
but there is footage with him and Rita. So did they get that actress to come to footage?
No, I believe he was in the original one as well, because his whole background is Rita works for him.
Yeah.
And because she wasn't able to defeat the Rangers, he sends her to Earth. He's like, yeah, you know, basically like, all right, you go to Earth, take care of this and that, and then, you know, ultimately she fails, and that's why when he shows up and he's just like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah. I thought, I wish they got to do this. Like,
but again, and speaking, like, I also did like that they changed it. Like, no, Zordon was the original Red Ranger, because
I like that too.
There was, and I haven't read it myself yet, but it was like Power Rangers. It was something like 1968 or something like that, where the premise of that was, before the Ranger team that we know, in the 60s, Zordon puts together another team.
Was this a comic book?
It's in it's like literally like a one-issue thing.
Oh, like part of that Mighty Morphin series?
In like the Shattered, Mighty Morphin series, and in that team, it's like, you know, a Russian scientist, like all these people.
That sounds awesome.
And everyone but one Ranger dies.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and you know, she is the Red Ranger. It's a girl. She's the only one left, and I think it's like the repercussions of that where Zordon's like, I can't ever do this again, and she like factors into the story, you know, as far as like, she's kind of like the CIA or NASA's like division of like, we're doing shit in space, because again, at this point, she was a former Power Ranger and she kind of knows all that shit. But I remember like even that kind of like altering of like, no, there was another set of Rangers. Like, I found that to be very cool as well, because again, you're introduced to like, oh, you know, there's never been any other Rangers. Yeah. You know, but like, oh no, yeah, there have been some before you. I think that's always just kind of like a cool little like twist on things.
Like, I would say this movie adds, like, while it's telling its own version of the story, it does kind of mix the mythology up in interesting ways.
Well, they constantly reference the Zeo crystals.
Yeah, which is really cool, because I think even in Mighty Morphin, they talk about the morphing grid, but they don't really reference Zeo crystals until the end of the series, right before they transition into Zeo. So I like the idea that in this one movie, they are building on the world that we know. Like, things as fans, you know, we're going to pick up on that Zeo crystal stuff. But anybody else, it's just the MacGuffin in the movie, you know. But to think that if we got like a third one of these, there could have possibly been Zeo Rangers is like kind of awesome.
I know there was plans for sequels. Like, I think everyone was signed on for like 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah, I think the Hasbro thing killed it though. That's what I've been hearing.
See, but I think one in a post Avengers world, because like, I mean, this came out in what, 2017. Okay, I think post like Endgame and seeing all that, where you're like, okay, this is hypothetically where we could go. I totally think there's a place for them to like
do a new one, but also bring them back or something like that.
I mean, you could totally just like, we're going to do Mighty Morphin, and that'll be their own thing, and then you can also do Zeo, and that'll kind of be their own thing, and then eventually have them team up, because, again, like,
because we don't know what kind of movie they're doing. We don't know, because they said they're doing, like, Hasbro's going to do a movie, but they didn't say if it was going to be the Mighty Morphin characters, or if they're just going to do an original thing.
Yeah, and, like, I'm someone who, like, I was tweeting about it the other day, because Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods showed up as the red and white, or no, the green and white Ranger.
Yeah. Great costumes too.
And I was like, you guys, there's other fucking Rangers.
Yeah.
Like, again, and I get it. Like, to me, like, if that was me, I'd be fucking showing up as Andros, the red fucking in Space Ranger, because I think that's. But I get it.
Like, I get it, but I'm with you. I love, and I think, you know, we all love the Green Ranger because he looked different. He had that shield, and he looked cool.
Well, funny enough, are you aware of the Die Rangers?
I've heard. I have passing knowledge of the Die Rangers.
So, for those of you guys unaware, if you take a look at the White Ranger costume, looks nothing like any of the other costumes.
It was from a different show.
And that's exactly what it was. So there's the Lost Rangers, called the Die Rangers. I think it's like DEA or DEI. Something not like die as in like I'm gonna kill you. And they for years were just struggling and trying to find a way to incorporate them into like the timeline, but it got to the point where they were like, this footage is too fucking old.
Yeah,
like it's too old. Like
it's just like lost now.
Exactly. Yeah, and like even with me, I'm like, I mean, shit, throw those fucking guys in there. Like I think you could do, you know, like there's a way to do this show and kind of incorporate everyone, because again, the beauty of Power Rangers is every year you start fresh.
Yeah,
you know, and then I think too as well, it's like if you're a kid, you know, if we were 10 years old. And you're like, oh, you really love these fucking Power Rangers? Guess what? There's 20 other seasons of them. Like, there is so much.
And I do wonder if kids go back. Because, like, some of it, like, Mighty Morphin is on Netflix. I know that. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the only season on Netflix.
Well, no, they actually... all those seasons were on Netflix. They took all of them down. This newest season of Power Rangers, whatever the fuck it is, they put that up on there.
It's not Beast... It's like Beast Morphers or something?
Sure,
that's
maybe.
That's the current Hasbro, the first Hasbro series.
Maybe, yeah, that one. I know that one is up on Netflix.
The last Disney, or I guess it was Neo Saban, was Ninja Storm or Ninja Steel.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like after a while, it's like it just kind of gets convoluted. Like I know at some point they're pirates, and then like now they bring back this. Now it's like now we're gonna incorporate trains.
Yeah.
You know, like Chris Monaghan showed me, and I don't know how true it was, but I guess it was like at one point the Ranger costumes will adopt like the Megazords, but they just look like you know when they would have the Megazords fight, and clearly two people in these Megazord costumes, that's just what they look like, and I was like, oh no, I was like, don't.
Well,
do
in
that.
Ninja Steel, like one of the Megazords comes out of a building, like the building just switches around, and it's just like a dude, like it just looks like a guy. Versus all the other ones are usually some sort of animal or something.
My favorite Megazord is, and I have it right over there, the Astro Megaship.
That's from In Space, right?
From In Space.
The blue thing over there by the Gengar?
Yeah, right next to the Gengar. And like to me, it's just like, oh, that's a cool looking chip, and I love that. Even after In Space for Lost Galaxy, they still use that chip.
Yeah,
it never morphed, but they still use that chip, even with that base.
Maybe that's what they should do for new movies. Do like a Space Ranger thing.
I was like, it's not much of a spoiler, because I mean, it's not really much of a spoiler. It doesn't really spoil anything. But in the comics, this lady, I think her name is Grace. Let's say Grace. You know, she's like, oh, I'm actually developing, because you know all these Rangers are like, we need, you know, there's a lot of Rangers and they all need a ship to get somewhere, and they're like, but we don't need one. You know, like Astro Megazord not big enough. And this lady Grace, she's like, you know, I have this, you know, it's called blah, blah, blah. And then one of the Rangers is like, you mean Terra Venture? She's like, huh? And they're like, yeah, they named Terra Venture in like this year. And she's like, oh, I died this year. She goes, so I guess they didn't keep the name. Like, it's just like one of those, like...
just like references.
Yeah, so like I named this, and she's like, oh yeah. She's like, well, then I guess I died the year before that, or that year or something, because, you know... And so it's just like, again, one of those fun things where you kind of connect it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know. Again, to me, I definitely think you could have done this Mighty Morphin movie, maybe done another season or two. I feel like this works better as like
a series.
As a series, you could do like 10 episodes or something like that.
Yeah, do like a serious Power Ranger series. Mm-hmm. I'd so be into that.
Exactly.
Like so. Like, okay, I understand wanting to have a kids show because Power Rangers, you know, is for kids. But like I said, there's no reason why you can't do multiple and have something for the fans. Like, So I didn't watch this show, but they're doing that iCarly revival, and I saw a clip from it, and they're doing a really smart thing, which to me is pretty ballsy because companies generally don't do this. They're making it for people our age who watch it as a kid. Like, she swears in that show and stuff, and like, it's still like a sitcom, but it's a sitcom for us. And I'm like, that is the smartest fucking thing you could do.
So, what was it? Not Bandai. Whoever has, so they actually did this with Digimon a few years back. It's called Digimon Tree or Try. I forget which one it is. And it was basically because the first 2 seasons of Digimon are essentially one story, because characters from the first season come back in the second season, but they're a little bit older. Because in the first season, I believe they're all like 12, maybe. So you come back and it's only like 2-3 years since then. So they're all a little bit older. And then, it wraps up at the end of the second season, and that's kind of that. This kind of picks up like 5 years, I believe, like after like we last saw them, and they're still kids, they're not like adults. And I felt like that one, again, was a little bit more adult because, like, at this point, you're dealing with more, like, adult themes where it's just, like, they're in college, they're going out to the bar to get a drink together.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the move.
Exactly. And, like, it's even, like one guy's, like, he's like, I can't do this. He's like, I'm studying for, like, my medical exam. He's like, I can't save the world anymore. I'm sorry. Like, you guys are on your own. And
like, if you're going to do Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, make it for us. If you're going to do Power Ranger fucking Ninja Dinosaurs, do it for kids. Like, you can do both.
And I think that's the beauty too of Power Rangers, where it's like there's kids like now, kids that are such huge fans of Mighty Morphin, and like, again, they weren't around for it. They weren't around for it. And it's almost kind of the same with wrestling, where you go to a convention and people are lined up, the Sandman's line, and it's like, how the fuck do you know who the Sandman is? You were watching, ECW on TNT all those years.
You weren't even
ago.
alive when that was on.
Exactly, but there is something to that, and I definitely think there is a way to do all these, the series as a whole, and kind of just keep incorporating it. Like, obviously there's some like, well, they don't get the Zeo only comes because they need the Zeo crystals, and but I think ultimately there's a way where it's like you could currently have Mighty Morphin going on and Zeo, kind of in the way like Marvel has like their different shows, where it's like,
hey, we got the Avengers over here, we got the Guardians over there, and stuff like that.
Yeah, where it's like, you have these guys here, those guys there, and then at some point, you have your big bad. You can have it be more Dracon.
Oh god, and if you do a freaking crossover, that would be amazing.
Exactly, have them, and the beauty of something like that too is it's like, and that's why like Marvel's smart with like their shows, where it's like, you have 6 hours to fucking get all the exposition out of the way, and then, like, with this Avengers movie, I'm under the assumption the next one is going to be Secret Wars based, the 2005 comic in which you have all this multiverse shit going on. The beauty with that is that you have all these shows that are going to be talking about multiverse.
They have a Secret Wars show.
Exactly. All this stuff that's going to be introducing everyone and doing all this stuff, so that by the time you get to this Avengers movie, you don't have to bother with, like, we have 2.5 hours and 30 minutes of that is going to just be like catching you up, because especially with them at this point, they're basically like, if you're not caught up, go fuck yourself, because we don't care. We're not going to explain.
They know you're watching. They don't need to do the homework.
And if you're not, like, I don't know about you, like, I've had friends, like, one of my friends, she's obsessed with Marvel now, and her first movie was Endgame. Yeah, and she was like,
I mean, people, hey, every comic's your first comic,
Exactly, and she went back, and so I can, because of that model, and like a lot of people are adapting it, some better than others, I definitely think there is a way to do that, because I mean, again, even with this movie, you kind of see you see it there, where it's like, okay, there's a way to update this and modernize it, and it's
and I think they kind of nailed it, and I really think it's just the box office. I will always blame. I think they needed to push back the release date, because releasing it alongside a Disney movie, you had no chance.
Yeah, and honestly, part of it as well might be because of people who thought like me, where it's like, not my Power Rangers.
Oh, sure.
And that's always going to be the case, like, I'm not sure when this will drop, but like, in the last few weeks, He-Man Masters of the Universe Revelation, Kevin Smith's show has been coming out, and there's been so many people who are just like he actually talked.
I've seen some of. I've mostly stayed away from it just because I just want to watch the show.
Well, like he talked about how Netflix was like, hey, shut up, because he's been like people are like, no, we have a source that said this is what's going to happen, and he's like, I promise you. That's not what's going to happen. Yeah. And they're already just like, no, you ruined the show for us and we don't want to watch it. And he's like, but I'm telling you, like, I got in trouble from Netflix for telling you that's not what's going on. And there are so many people, it happens all the time. You know, whenever it's like a property from, you know, the 80s or something from your childhood rebooted, like I can see why people feel that way. But it is, you know, you always got to remember.
I mean, I had that when the RoboCop reboot happened, because RoboCop was a movie I watched a lot as a kid, and when that was also the movie that broke me on caring about reboots or anything, because guess what? Turned out that movie was kind of okay. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know what? I don't need to get mad about this kind of stuff. The originals are still there. If the new one is good, that's great. If it's not, oh well.
Well, like, and kind of even bringing it back to like again with Digimon, they have updated the original show. Yeah. Like they've started airing it. Just they updated it, and as far as I can tell, like condensed it a little bit and changed a few things. And that's one of those things where I'm just like, oh no, I'm not too happy with that.
Yeah, I don't like when they do stuff like that.
But you know. Conversely, Full Metal Alchemist, a show that I loved, they were like, "Hey, when we did it the first time, the manga wasn't finished. This time, we're going to redo it and stick closer to the manga."
Yeah, that's the Brotherhood version, right?
And I love that. That to me, I always say like, watch this first and then go watch the other one. Like that one,
yeah. You know, and I've actually been considering jumping into that. So.
Exactly. So it can work. It can also not work. But it's like when you come to a lot of those like movie reboots specifically, sometimes it's just like. Ooh, you know, like I just recently watched like Total Recall for the first time.
The original or the reboot?
The original, and
because that is a reboot I actually do enjoy.
Well, like I was talking about, it was me, Dave, and his stepson, and his stepson was like, "No, he was like, I understand what they were trying to do." He goes, "But." He goes, I don't know, man. He goes, I don't think it needed, like, if you're going to remake this, he goes, I don't think you needed to have tried that hard. And sometimes that is the case. Sometimes they don't want to just directly remake the movie.
They made their own version.
Yeah, and that's a good thing is there's everyone has, you know, their own version. Like,
yeah, it doesn't take away from the original. Like, I understand, like, hey, I want this to be successful so we can get more of this. Like, I really wanted this movie to be successful because I love it and I want a sequel. Unfortunately, we may never get one. Maybe one day they'll kind of, because it reviewed pretty well. Like, it's a 60 or something, like 67 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is not bad. It's fresh, but I think it deserves higher, personally.
I mean, think about Star Wars. Everyone has, like to me, prequels. They're my shit. That's what I grew up on. Some people, you know, like you grew up on the original trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, I was somewhere in between because, you know, I grew up with the special editions of the trilogy. Like, that's what was coming out when I was a kid. And then the prequels were shortly after, you know, but... I like the prequels, but I acknowledge the faults in them. But I'm like, I watched these growing up, man. I still love them.
That's why it is with me. And it's, you know, like sometimes with, you know, with 4, 5, and 6, it's one of those like, yeah, they're good, but like I'm kind of just like, all right, I get it, you know. Yeah. And I feel bad for episodes 7, 8, and 9 because it's like I loved 7. Didn't like 8, and then
I fucking love 7 and 8, but 9 is
and 9 was fucked. You know, 9 was never...
9 didn't stand a chance.
Never. They should have been like, hey, guess what? Episode 9 and then 10.
Yeah.
Like, let's let J.J. Abrams
because it felt like a movie was missing in there somewhere. Exactly. I mean, I covered that... I mean, we're not even talking about Power Rangers at this point, but I covered that Colin Trevorrow script on my podcast, the one that leaked out. Honestly, 1,000% better.
Well, from hearing about it, I was like, I like Colin Trevorrow. I watched... the Safety Not Guaranteed, like that's what we talked about. Really loved it, and I don't think his Jurassic Park movies have been bad. Like, no, I mean, also it's
I didn't like the second one, but he didn't direct the second one. But I like the first Jurassic World.
And I think there was like some sort of like he was difficult to work with or something. Like he got put in movie jail for a while.
There was something going on behind the scenes of Star Wars, and then that Book of Henry flopped. Which, man, do you know what the fuck that movie's about? Have you ever heard the plot of that movie?
No.
Look up a video on the Book of Henry. It is...
No, fuck that. Tell me what's the plot of the movie.
It's hard to even remember it all. It's essentially a kid who is like the genius of his house and is constantly talking down to his mother and decides that his neighbor is like abusing this girl. So he's like, oh, well, he needs to be murdered. But then the kid gets cancer and dies, but he left a book for his mother to explain how to murder this guy and get away with it. And she just decides to try to do it.
What the fuck?
Dude, look up videos on YouTube of this movie. It is the most insane shit I've ever.
I always assumed it was just one of these, like, Henry's our little son and he loves to read. And
dude, 1,000%. And then I'll send you the video I found, and it is the most insane shit. And I was like, okay, maybe I can get it. Like,
Jesus. Well, like, seeing, like, first off, he was going to call this movie Duel of the Fates, and I think the biggest misstep in these new Star Wars movies is not bringing back Duel of the Fates. Like,
but I don't like to use that stuff as a crutch. Like,
I mean, like, I love that song.
It's fucking great.
And it's like even like, you know, like you can put it in scenes, you know.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's there. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, you know, almost the same way with like certain franchises where like they'll be like actors from, they're like, yeah, I'd be willing to come back for a cameo or something.
Yeah.
And they just,
or like, hey, if they didn't use the Power Rangers theme in this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I guess, yeah, we have veered off a lot.
No, but it's all franchise talk. It works.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know, that whole Star Wars thing. It's a thing. But yeah, we probably should talk about Power Rangers. Yeah, like I said before, I think the strongest thing about this movie is that I have trouble picking my favorite character. Like, I think everybody is pretty well developed. I think it's perfectly cast. Like, all of the actors and actresses, I think, are great in their roles. And I really like the actor who played Zack, who then went on to be Liu Kang in the Mortal Kombat reboot. And then the actress who played Kimberly, who then went on to be Jasmine in Aladdin, and she was great in that too. Like, they're all really, really solid. But I think Billy kind of steals the show.
Billy for sure. So there are two. What's her face? Who plays Trini?
Becky G.
So there's this actress by the name of Carol G. Who she's like fucking just a real piece of shit. And I remember when Dave and I, because we did a review of this movie, I was talking for like the first half hour. I'm talking all my shit, and then at one point I'm like, wait, I was like, I got the wrong.
I'm talking about the wrong person.
Because I guess Becky G is also a singer.
Yeah, she's like a pop singer.
But like, what the fuck? There's Carol G, Becky G. Like, come on, man.
Hey, simple mistake.
A simple mistake. No, I mean, what's his name?
RJ Seiler or Kyler or something.
I really like him in this because again, like his character, like you sympathize with him in that like. He's the one that kind of brings them all together in the end. Exactly. Like, he's never really had friends. His one friend was his dad, and his dad's gone. And you know, like and it's like, it's cliche, but it's like, you know, like your family is like who you choose to make it, you know? Yeah. Sure, most of us have like our traditional family, but sometimes they're not the best. No. And the good thing about that is, you know, like, you know, be it your husband, your wife, your friends, your cousins, whoever, you decide who your own family is, you know. Yes, you don't get to choose who your family is, but that doesn't mean that you don't get to, you know, this is who I view as family. And I feel like with him, like, he's lucky because he has like 4 fucking solid people who would give their lives for him because he gave their lives for them. Yeah, and that is like the theme of this movie being like friendship and like coming together. It's all really well realized up to the point where the reason they formed the Megazord is because now they're at the point where they would all die for each other. Yeah. And they get pushed in that hole and they come together, literally. Exactly. Another character that, again, that to me came off really strong is Dacker Montgomery. Is that, I believe that's how you say his name. Is that who plays Jason? Yeah. He's really good. I really loved him in he was like season 2, I believe, of Stranger Things. Like, oh really? He is the fucking best. Like, I was not a Stranger Things guy, so I missed. Dude, this guy, he is full on. He is every like rebellious kid from the 80s. Like, oh really? Yeah, like to the point where he's just like the badass kid with a mullet, smokes cigarettes, like drinks. Like, he comes like this close to like hooking up with one of the kids' like moms, who she's very clearly like I'm gonna fuck this teenager. Like, she full on wants to fuck this teenager. and he was just really good. And again, that was a different side of him because
because here he's just kind of like the hero guy, but like they all have issues and troubles, and they actually take risks in this, which I like, by making Trini gay and making Billy autistic.
Well, to me, the only, again, prior to like season 2 of Stranger Things, the only really thing I'd seen him in was this, and for this, he plays the role of Jason well. Like I feel like he is just playing, like he's just playing Jason. Also, I remember there's a joke about jerking off a bull at the beginning of this movie.
yeah, that's how they open the movie. Like, they transition from Zordon dying to, they're stealing this bull and he milked it. He's like, no, but it's a bull, not a cow.
Yeah, which again, that was kind of fucked up. But yeah, like I think he plays his role like just well, as like he is the leader. Yeah, you know, and he's one of those people. He's just a born leader, and
I also just love when he smacks the bully. It's like, did you just slap him?
Yeah, he just straight up slaps the bully, and that as well. That like you see that he's not an asshole. No. You know, he was. If that was the way you portrayed him, it was probably just because of, you know, this persona that he was like. He was being forced into football by his dad.
It seems like he's constantly fighting against the persona of, hey, that's Jason Lee, like he's the guy, and he's like, I don't want to be that guy. Like,
there's something. I was into an interview with like Danny Trejo, and he talked about how like people can think you're famous, and that's totally fine. But the minute you think you're famous, that's when, like, you know, that's when
you're the problem.
Yeah, you're the problem, and that's definitely him. You know, like everyone, like these people in town fucking hate him. They are rude. They are mean to this little boy who got injured. Yeah. And granted, it was because of his own doing, but like they are so mean to this little boy that got injured, and now they're like, great, because this is clearly like a small little suburban town. You know, Angel Grove, it canonically is like a coastal. Like California town, city. But this is very much Seattle. Yeah, like it's just
like even if you think back to the old TV show when they're fighting amongst like skyscrapers and stuff. But in this, it's like, nah, man, they're just taking down a Krispy Kreme and like.
Oh, also totally, they're not shameful about the product placement.
So, listening to the commentary, I actually have a story about that. Is that it wasn't originally like planned? It was like, hey, we need to figure out where the Zeo crystal is buried, and they're like, well, maybe it'll be under like a statue or something, or just like in this quarry or whatever. But like, and I think it was the writer, just like, God, I wish it could just be under like the Golden Arches, like talking about McDonald's. And they're just like, oh wait, what if it is? Like, what if it's just some mundane, simple thing? And, you know, then I'm sure it became like, well, who can we get? And it just kind of happened. They're like, yes, we understand it's product placement, but just know that it wasn't like intended to like always be that.
I mean, which again, even that in it of itself is still a fun little thing. Yeah. But I forgot why we even brought up the Krispy Kreme. Jason. Oh yeah.
Oh, we were talking about like Angel Grove as a city.
Angel Grove. I mean, even that. I like the little deviation again from the traditional. Again, what we know as like this coastal town to, or like California basically to Seattle. Because I mean, again, also not that much of a difference. There's still clearly this ocean, because even Jason's father, fisherman, which also. No, they would never just be like, oh, there's a police investigation. Yeah, he'd just lock up. He'd be like, no,
he's like, yeah, just lock up. There's beers in there.
All you guys fucking stay here. Like, I need to interrogate you. And also,
well, I mean, they did fish it out of the water, like.
Yeah, but it was just one of those. Yeah, like, there's fish down there, you piece of shit. Like, no, but again, this is also supposed to be a very like small. Like, and I mean, I've grown up in the city for the most part, so you probably, like smaller towns probably.
Everybody knows each other. Like, in it, for how big we see Angel Grove is, it's bigger than like where I grew up, but not by much. So like, I can definitely see like he knows this cop, the cop knows him. Like everybody here probably knows each other. So it's like, yeah, look, you trust me. I just fished this out of the water. Here's the keys. Like whatever.
Yeah. But. Yeah, like I mean, even the character playing his dad, who plays what's his face?
Where have I seen? Wasn't
he
in
Office?
Oh yeah, he was in The Office.
He's Pam's.
Yeah, for some reason I always thought he was in True Blood, but I got him confused with a different actor.
No, I know who you're thinking. No, it's not him from True Blood. But yeah, like even the relationship there, like, I feel bad. Like, I am never, like, I always just feel bad for these sports kids. Like, clearly looking at me and Jeremy, we are not, like, athletes in any way, shape, or
played football in Pee Wee.
Yeah, and I played soccer in, like, 7
I hated it, but I did it.
But, like, these kids who I see who get fucking just, like, like, their parents have this hard-on for, like, you have to make my dreams come true. Like,
I mean, my oldest brother, that was, like, his thing. He was, like, a football star, and then he went into the Army.
Yeah, and I just, like, I feel for the kid, where it's just, like, yeah, like, sure, he's a star athlete, but, like, also, he's a fucking kid.
Yeah.
Like, we all do fucking stupid things.
Like, do you ever
in high
wonder
school.
what he wants to do, not what you want him to do?
Exactly. And, like, I find myself fortunate in that, like, my parents, it was always just like, hey, man, like, as long as, like, you do what you want to do, like, and again, it also came from, like, I got decent grades. I never really got in trouble, at least that they knew of. But
similar.
Yeah, and so it was just like, hey, man, you do you. But, like, I would have friends where they're just like, oh, no, I really have to, I always have to stay home and study. And it's like, you're the smartest person that I know. 1,000% you do not have to stay home and study. But it's like, well, my mom and dad said I have to stay home and study. And it's like, it's like, all right, well.
I hope that works out for you.
Yeah, it's like, have fun. And that was kind of the vibe that I got, at least from his dad, because his dad was a fucking asshole, Like,
yeah, but it does, like, kind of make it a nice moment at the end where he, like, when the battle is happening and his dad's, like, searching for him, like, he's calling him on the phone, like, I'm just looking for you, I don't know what's going on, blah, blah, blah.
And he's like, oh, your son's okay. I saved him too.
Yeah, when he shows up. Yeah, dude, that last half hour of that movie is just, it's so much fun. Like, I always laugh at it when I watch it, though, because, like, what did we all bitch about with Man of Steel? Of, like, oh, there's so much city destruction. Like, dude, they wreck Angel Grove in this movie. But just the tone of it is so different that I'm just kind of, oh, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, like, part of it is, they play that, the original theme song, but then they also play Kanye West's Power.
Oh, and it works so well.
Works great, so it's just like you're kind of distracted by, like, the fun music.
Yeah,
and they're, they all have their fun little one-liners, their quips, and you are seeing them, like, kind of form a team. Because this is,
and it plays into how good the cast is. Like, they clearly had really good chemistry on set. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if all these actors are, like, still friends today. Everybody seems like they really get along.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, and it was believable, because that's also the one thing where it's like, like, I don't necessarily think, like, oh yeah, these are all really good friends from, like, the original Power Rangers. It's kind of just like,
yeah, like, why would any of these people be hanging out?
But conversely, with these people, it's like, oh no, yeah, you guys,
you see them become friends because, like, some of them have passing knowledge of each other, and even there's moments in the movie with Kimberly and Trini where, like, Kimberly's like, oh, that's Trini, we have this class together or whatever, and Trini's like, no, actually we have this class together, it's been great talking with you or whatever. Like, you see them go from we're all strangers to we would die for each other.
Yeah, which again is also, like, a high school thing, like, there'd be times where it's like, oh, hey, now we're all friends with with Luis Medina, and it's like, have I met you? Yeah, remember we had this history class together, and it's like, oh yeah, like, we did, and, like, again, that's just, it makes sense. And also, with, like, I think one of my favorite scenes is Billy is, like, at the table with all his nerd friends, and then, like, Kimberly comes over, and then I think Jason comes over, and they're like,
Kimberly and Jason?
Yeah, like, what the fuck? Like, Kimberly and Jason?
I love all the little high school moments in this movie. Like, I almost wish there was more of it.
Oh, like when the fucking mean girls get their comeuppance?
Yeah, which they get, like, twice in the movie, don't they? Because they get splatted on at lunch, and then aren't they in the final battle as well? And, like, they're being attacked by putties or something?
Possibly, but I was like, listen, these little see you next Tuesdays deserved it, all right?
Yeah.
Because it was very mean.
It's so much fun. And, like, that's the thing. This movie, to me, is just a lot of fun. But, like, yeah, I legitimately love... Like, so this is a blockbuster where there's only really action in the last 30 minutes. And I never have an issue with that when I watch it. Like, I'm not like, oh, I want more morphing and blah, blah, blah. Like, I enjoy following these characters until they get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, there are, with some movies where it's like, if the characters are strong enough and the history and the lore is there, like, You don't necessarily need like, you know, these long action sequences in between, like Watchmen, you know, one of my favorite movies, and again, like, there's not really much action in it aside from like flashbacks and kind of just like the sequence.
Yeah, like I would not classify Watchmen as an action movie. To me, that is a drama.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, like even the most climactic, you know, the climax, it's like, well, you know, Night Owl gets pissed at fucking, you know, Adrian, and
but it's not like a fucking knockdown, drag down fight.
Exactly. Like even to the point where he's just like, all right, he's like, come on, yeah, you made your point, you know.
Yeah.
And same thing with that. Like I've never watched that movie for as many times as I've watched it and been like, oh, I wish that you would see like Dr. Manhattan, you know, blow up some fucking, you know, Vietnamese people, because it's like, no, you get enough of it. You see what you have to. And same thing with this, where it's like, yeah,
because really it's they fight the putties at the end and then they fight Goldar,
and there's like the training sequences, you know, where it's like you see them learning how to fight, because that's also a thing too, where it's like you gotta think about with Power Rangers,
like in the original show they're all just martial artists.
Everyone just can you name me two people that you know that know martial arts?
Tyrone, that's the only one.
There you go. Tyrone and Paul.
Does Paul know martial arts?
Paul did martial arts when he was a kid, I believe. I believe his dad.
Tyrone is still actively in martial arts.
Paul is not.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like one of those things where it's just like, oh, these 5 random group of kids just all happen to know martial arts. And again, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand. Like, I know, like, there's one season of Power Rangers where it's like, oh, they're all at, like, ninja school. So it's like,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
perfect,
whatever you got to
sense.
tell yourself. But a lot of those series, it's just a bunch of randos who just find powers and then, oh, now we're martial art experts.
And granted, with this, they do have the little thing of like, oh, the power coins give them power. Because you see them fucking running up canyons and punching.
Which I like. I like the idea that I never really looked at the Power Rangers as superheroes until recently. I was like, oh, no, they totally are superheroes. But I like that their powers extend beyond being in costume. It's, oh, no, like those things give them power. Like they are strong and stuff just because they have the coins.
Yeah, and I guess it just depends on the iterations. Like I know there's Time Force where they're essentially just police cops.
Time Force is a great fucking series too.
That's one where I didn't watch all of it, but I liked what I did watch.
Yeah.
And that actually,
I would say,
and that series actually does factor into Shattered Grid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. I will say, I think the 2 series in conversation for best series of Power Rangers ever are In Space and Time Force.
Yeah, I mean, and again, Time Force it was one that I was just like, yeah, like I really fuck with this. You know, and it is again a little bit fun. Like I remember, not SPD. There's one where it's like there's like a firefighter. He's like the main one.
Fuck. Lightspeed Rescue.
Lightspeed Rescue, where like that one was like, oh, okay, this is a fun little just because like they're all like, you know,
which I like that angle of like, oh, well, they're like emergency people, and it's not like alien technology. It's just like
they're all essentially first responders.
Yeah.
And that's how like, oh, okay, that's why you have, you know, extensive knowledge and stuff, as opposed to like, oh, he's just you know,
some guy at the juice bar.
Yeah, he's just some guy at the fucking juice bar.
But yeah, like the way they stumble on their powers, and like this movie follows kind of like the superhero origin story, which is why you don't get a lot of them and their powers, because you're watching them become worthy. But I think it's a journey worth taking, and like because the characters are so strong, because they cast it so well, like I am perfectly fine throwing in this movie kind of whenever and just like going on that journey.
Now, definitely since I rewatched it, and I also myself, I bought the Blu-ray was like $5, the DVD was $4, and I'm like,
well,
sure, yeah. I mean, I'm big on going to like half price books.
Yeah.
And usually that's the thing. If I find a DVD and then I'm like, all right, let me see if they have it on Blu-ray. They don't. All right, whatever.
Man, half price books is awesome.
That disc replay, you know, both of them. But yeah, no, I mean, I guess, you know, I guess I don't really have much else to say about this movie. I mean, aside from, like I think if upon first initial watch, you know, you did have some sort of like, about it, much like I admittedly did, like definitely give it a second rewatch, because, no, it's not
it's not what we grew up on. It's their own version.
Exactly. And it makes sense that kids were into this,
I had the best theater experience when I saw this. I actually meant to bring this up earlier. So when I saw it, it was me and my wife and then some older person who was probably just killing time next to her. But to my right, there was like a couple empty seats and like a family. And it was like a dad, a mom, like a smaller child, and then like maybe like a 6 or 7 year old. And the 6 and 7 year old was like standing up, like there was a railing in front of us. She's like holding the railing during the whole last 20 minutes, and she's like pumping her fists and jumping. Like when they played the theme song, she's like, yeah. And I was like, this is awesome, just watching this little kid vibe with this movie so much.
With movies and wrestling, I tend to treat them like the opera. Like I am not someone who's like as charismatic. Like I feel bad at wrestling shows when the camera people are like right in front, and I'm just like, all right, yeah, and like
you gotta turn it on.
I'm like, I know what you want, I know, but like if up to me, I will sit there. I
hate having to do that.
Like I will just sit there and just take it in, and like there's certain scenes like I remember, even with that movie, like when that came on, I was just like sitting up out of my seat because I was like, they fucking play the music, or like,
and the music in this movie is really good too.
Yeah, good music.
It's a good score.
But like I remember like Infinity War again, like I'm watching the whole thing just sitting there, and then as soon as Iron Man gets fucking stabbed, I literally like I audibly gasp and put my hands over my mouth. I remember my girlfriend at the time same thing where she was like, you fucking gas and put your. I was like, I know. I was like, that's fucked up. But it's that where it's like it does not that I'm like some sort of like stone cold robot, but it's like very often I'll sit there and just kind of digest it all in, and afterwards be like, that's fucked up. But I mean, this was one of those movies that got that reaction out of me.
This was the movie that really showed me how 90s nostalgia is going to hit me. Because, like, I was born in the 80s, but I'm a child of the 90s. I was born in 88. Mm-hmm. So, like, yeah, when this movie came out is when we first started seeing, like, okay, we've been doing all the 80s nostalgia with, like, Stranger Things and stuff. Now we're going to start doing 90s stuff. And this was the one that worked on me for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a place for it. Like, again, same thing in conversation with Chris Wong. He's like, why is everyone like super into Power Rangers? And I'm like, because that's
I have created a monster at work because I posed a question like 2 or 3 days ago of what is the best theme song, which Zio is the answer.
I've heard fucking Roan walking around singing that goddamn Zio theme song.
It's almost killed it for me, but it like literally like a bunch of us went home that night and listened to like all of the theme songs, and he legit texted me like a top 5, and I'm like, everybody's just been talking about it like ever since in that little corner, the three of us.
I mean, I remember, like off the top of my head, I remember, what is it? Lost Galaxy.
Yeah.
That one, In Space, Turbo.
For me,
Mighty Morphin.
Top 3 is Zio, Mighty Morphin, and In Space.
See, I mean, with me, it's just these are the ones that like I remember, know, because like I know I've watched I watched Jungle Fury. Gun to my head, I cannot fucking tell you what that one sounds like.
I recently went through and listened to all of them, and Jungle Fury is very forgettable.
Do they stay reminiscent of like...
Oh, currently with like Megaforce and what was it, Dino Charge? They're literally just doing the Mighty Morphin theme and changing the lyrics. Like literally, it's just we're redoing the Mighty Morphin theme, and it's just Go Go Power Rangers, and then something they just forced the title into the show. I'm trying to remember the next lyrics, but it's just like Mega Force Forever. But they're literally just doing the Mighty Morphin theme now. They've just given up. And the last 3 seasons have all basically done the same thing. But like Mystic Force did like a pop song, which was kind of interesting because like they're all like kind of metal songs.
Mystic Force I only know of because it canonically it brings back Rita Repulsa. She comes back as like the White Witch.
Okay.
Yeah, they bring her back.
When I was rewatching these reviews, I haven't gotten to Mystic Force yet.
Yeah,
so.
Which again also one of those things where I was like, oh, but at the end of In Space, she gets turned into a human.
Her and Zed are human now.
Which like, wait,
shut up, nerd.
Yeah, where it's just like my favorite thing is it's just like everyone's getting killed and it's like, oh, we're just gonna make you normal people.
Yeah,
we're gonna make you white suburban folks, and it's like, cool.
Is Rita just like a white woman?
Oh no, Rita's Asian.
Yeah.
She's Asian.
I'm saying they didn't make her a white woman though. They just made her an Asian woman, right?
Yeah, they just made her an Asian woman. Yeah,
that would have been fucked up.
Yeah,
because Zed's just like some white dude.
He looks like Jordan Belfort.
He totally does.
The actual Jordan Belfort, not Leo.
Yeah. Oh, man, I fucking love Power Rangers. I don't know, man. I've just been falling back into it, and that was why I wanted to talk about this with you, because I know you've recently been doing the comics and stuff, and I was like, well, if I'm going to talk Power Rangers, like, definitely grab Berto.
Yeah, I mean, again, with this movie, like, I mean, when you mentioned, like, defend your movie, this was definitely one of them, because, again, I was someone who was just like, no, I don't like this one, and I don't want to watch it, and I don't want to admit that I like it. But, I mean, just that, again, further review, it was like, oh, no, like, this was actually good. And,
yeah. Honestly, when I brought this up, I was thinking we would do Turbo, because you're one of the only people I know that says they like Turbo.
Funny enough, again, my friends, I'm subscribed to their Patreon, and like the specific tier I'm at, it's like, oh, you get to pick a movie for us to review, and they thought 100% I was gonna pick Turbo, because we did the Mighty Morphin one, and for like, I don't know, 2-3 years now, we've been going back and forth on like, yeah, we're gonna do Turbo, and just never have. And I was like, oh no, I was like, let's do Watchmen, like it's because
just keep putting it off.
Yeah, but I mean, no, I will openly Turbo Ranger movie so much better than that Mighty Morphin Ranger, especially because
that hurts my nostalgia.
I mean, hey, listen, I think if you give it a watch, and
we might have to come back and do Turbo.
Down.
That'll be the way I'll watch that movie.
Yes, I'm 100% down for that.
Yeah, because that'll be my first time. So
yeah, I'm down.
Well, yeah. Well, all right. I think we've tapped out on Power Rangers, and we got some good franchise talk out of it too. All relevant.
Yeah, I mean, there's anytime you and I get in front of a microphone, it's
we ramble.
It's hard for us to stay on
but,
subject.
It's very on brand for like what they were trying to do with this movie, and what they'll probably be trying in the future. Like, I'm still excited for more Power Rangers content. Like, it is always something that will mean a lot to me from my childhood. So, I'm curious to see what they're gonna do next, if they're not gonna do another one of these.
Oh no, for sure. Like, I mean, definitely there. Again, there's such a resurgence of Power Rangers as a whole. 100%, they're doing something different.
I'm curious how that Hasbro series is doing with this being their first one, but I have not looked into it.
Listen, I if the toys are any indication, the toy line is a huge thing. And the one thing I like about that as well is that it's not just like we're releasing all of Mighty Morphin and then all of Zeo and no, they're just like, we have this Ranger from In Galaxy, we have this Ranger from this
they've been
series,
doing a good job with like the legacy toys.
Yeah, and
I wish they would re-release a Morpher though. I've actually been looking for like a Mighty Morphin style Morpher, but they're all like hundreds of dollars. There's no current version.
Chris Wong actually just recently purchased an In Space Morpher, and it took all of my will to not just immediately go buy it. Do
you know how much?
I don't even think it was. I think it was maybe like $100. Like, it wasn't expensive.
The cheapest I found a Mighty Morphin one is like $150, and I'm like, nope, I can't do that for a toy that I'm just gonna put on my shelf.
Exactly. Me, it would be sitting right here. That's why I'm just like, no, because even like with that Astro Mega Ship Zord, when that is like, that's not the actual like full size one.
Yeah,
and I've wanted that one. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it, and it's not even that. It's like $100.
Yeah, for a full size one, that's not bad.
Yeah, and
like if I could find the Mighty Morphin Megazord that was like a decent size, I'd maybe consider it. But at the same time, it's like, where am I going to put that thing?
Exactly. If I, it's one of those things. I'm like, what? I found that one at like a vintage toy store.
Yeah,
and I'm content with that one. I love that
cool.
one.
I like it.
Yeah. Like if I got another one.
Oh, I do like that Megazord Funko you got up there, and that Dragon Zord.
Yeah,
those are cool.
Yeah. Sure.
I didn't realize all those fucking Funkos over there. All right. I'll have to take a picture of that for the Instagram. But all right, man. Thanks a lot for fucking sitting here and talking Power Rangers with me. Before we go, you want to plug your stuff?
I myself, with the head designer for Pro Wrestling Tees, host a podcast called the PWT Cast. Not much wrestling going on. It's mostly like we'll bring on wrestlers and we talk about it's everything but wrestling.
Yeah.
This will, by the time this comes out, we've already hit episode 100.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's mostly just Dave and I talking, comics, pop culture, movies, things of that nature. We've had, wrestlers on, we have Cole Cabana, the Young Bucks, Matt Cardona, just Brody King, a bunch of different wrestlers. We have Kevin Smith on there as well. If you like the movie Psycho Gorman, we have the director on there as well.
Yeah, did you just like tweet that guy?
their social media started following me. I emailed them, or I direct messaged one of their accounts and was like, hey, I want to interview the director. And they were like, oh, they're like, this is the email for the press person.
Wow.
And yeah, it was.
That's how I've gotten most of mine, though. Honestly, just tweets.
Honestly, yeah, half the time it's tweeting that. And there are a lot of fun, just like random episodes, like specifically like the last month or so. Dave and I have been so busy that we've just been doing our own, just whatever episodes. There's a little bit of everything for everyone. And then, if you go there, there's also information on like our Patreon stuff as well. You
you did cover Power Ranger stuff on the Patreon.
We have, yeah. So there was, we have our every week our Scrump and Stank family video. We just review a different movie or TV show. We just recently did one, which I have not posted yet. So thank God that I had to plug this, because now I know I got to post that. And then we were doing like a bi-weekly show as well called Go Scrump and Stank. Again, it was kind of just our Power Ranger retrospective show. Yeah. And we recently put that aside to start a new show called Scrump and Stank Detective Agency.
I saw you promoting that one.
Yeah, in which we were just like, I made the joke that we're like, oh, this is like this office reminds me of like Eddie Valiant's office from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah. And then literally on there, I'm like, Scrump and Stank Detective Agency coming soon. And then maybe like a week later, Dave is like, would that be something? I was like, yes, 100%. I'm like, so just all sorts of random bullshit. And who knows, by the time this comes out, like who we will have had on and stuff like that. Yeah. Hopefully CM Punk. I keep forgetting to ask him every time he's at the shop. But yeah, and as well as if you go back into the archives of Shelved, we did
those are still up.
We did several episodes there as well. So yeah, thank you again, Jeremy, for having me on.
No problem, man. Thank you for being on. And you got social media as well, the PWT Cast.
Yeah, at PWT Cast on Instagram and Twitter. You can find my personal ones on there as well. Give a follow.
Yeah. All right. Well, be sure to follow that and check that out, and check out his Patreon. Check out the Power Ranger stuff if you like this one. Obviously, hear more about it over there.
I will say, there's one episode that's my favorite one of them, where Dave and I originally intended to talk about the original cast of Power Rangers. Yeah. Then we have a debate about whether or not we talk about Tommy Oliver, or whether we give him his own episode, which leads to me telling the story of the time Jason David Frank got into a fight with Jean-Claude Van Damme at a Comic-Con in Mexico.
Oh, shit, really?
And it just spirals into that. Yeah, the long gist of the story is they had beef since the original 95 Power Rangers movie premiere. I forget what the case is. They're at a con, and Jason David Frank is in the green room. Jean-Claude Van Damme's manager comes in and says, hey, John, us, is it cool if we share the green room? He's like, that's fine, just
no trouble,
don't bother me. Jean-Claude Van Damme essentially ambushes him with a film crew and tries to punk him out.
Yeah.
To which immediately,
being an asshole.
which Jason David Frank, ready to fucking throw hands, grabs him, fucking puts him up against the wall, and there's some video footage where you can see some of the scuffle. Nothing any good, but I mean, the gist of it was wild. Jean-Claude Van Damme was like, yeah, come on, let's fight. And Jason David Frank's a 3-time black belt UFC fighter, so he was like, let's go, motherfucker.
Yeah, he's like, I ain't afraid of you.
Yeah, so it was just again, that's just my favorite, because it's literally, you just hear it.
I mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme's a known asshole, so.
Exactly. And he almost got his ass beat in Mexico by a Power Ranger. So
that would have been a great fucking story.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, man. Well, this was fun, and I definitely think we will reconvene for Turbo in the future.
Definitely. Part 2 with Turbo coming soon.
Yeah. So thank you, and thank everybody for listening.